The Galactic Proposal. James Carter sat in his small apartment, sipping his morning coffee. He was an ordinary man, working a boring office job, living a quiet life. But today, his world was about to change forever. A loud knock echoed through his apartment. Frowning, he walked to the door and opened it. A tall man in a dark suit stood there, holding a sleek silver tablet. Behind him, two uniformed officers stood silently. "James Carter?" the man asked in a calm, deep voice. James hesitated. Yeah." The man's face remained emotionless. "By the order of the United Systems Alliance, you have been selected for the Galactic Proposal. Please come with us." James blinked. "The what?" The man sighed, as if he had repeated this sentence too many times. "Every Earthling must marry 2 alien spouses. You have been chosen. You have 48 hours to pick your brides. If you refuse, you will be exiled from Earth. Forever." James laughed. "This is a joke, right? Some kind of prank show." He looked around, expecting hidden cameras. But the officers didn't laugh. The man in the suit didn't smile. Instead, he tapped his tablet. A hologram appeared in front of James, showing a government document with his name, photo, and official stamp from the Intergalactic Council. "This is real," the man said. "You must come with us now." James felt his stomach drop. This had to be a dream. A bad dream. But the officers stepped forward, waiting for him to move. "Do I have a choice?" he asked weakly. The man's eyes were cold. "No." The arrival at the alien embassy. James found himself inside a massive spaceship, unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls shimmered with strange blue lights, and the air smelled like metal and flowers. He sat in a large hall filled with other confused humans. A tall alien with silver skin and glowing blue eyes stood at the front. He raised his hands, and the room became silent. "Welcome, Earthlings," the alien's voice echoed, smooth and deep. "You are the lucky few chosen for a great honor. As a symbol of peace, each of you will marry 2 of the finest alien women from our allied races." Murmurs filled the room. Some people looked excited, others terrified. James crossed his arms. "And if we say no?" The alien smiled, but there was no warmth in his expression. "Then you will leave Earth forever. You will not be harmed, but you can never return. Your world has agreed to this law." James felt anger rise in his chest. "And what if we don't want to marry some random aliens?" The alien's smile widened. "Oh, trust me, human. You will want to. Our women are extraordinary." Just then, the doors slid open, and a group of alien women entered. The room fell silent. They were breathtaking. Some had glowing golden skin, others had long, silvery hair. Some had cat-like eyes, and others had shimmering wings. They moved with grace and confidence, their eyes scanning the humans like hunters choosing their prey. James swallowed hard. What was happening? Meeting the brides. A smaller alien, wearing a uniform, approached James. She handed him a tablet. "These are your options," she said. "Scroll through. You have 48 hours to choose 2 wives. After that, the selection will be made for you." James hesitated, then looked at the screen. Hundreds of profiles. Different alien species, different backgrounds. He swiped through the images, his heart pounding. One profile caught his eye. Serena, a Seraphim warrior. Golden skin that glowed softly. Telepathic abilities. A combat expert from the strongest warrior race in the galaxy. Another profile appeared. Nixara, a Nithari shadow assassin. Purple skin, glowing violet eyes. Agile and deadly. Secret past. James frowned. These weren't just wives. They were fighters. He turned to the alien woman who had given him the tablet. "Why do I feel like this is more than just a wedding?" She smirked. "Because it is." James felt a cold chill run down his spine. Something was very, very wrong. The suspicious truth. Later that night, James sat in his assigned room inside the massive spaceship. He couldn't sleep. This whole thing felt too strange, too suspicious. Why were they forcing humans to marry aliens? Why were the women so powerful? And why did he have a feeling that he was being watched? Just then, the door slid open silently. James shot up from his bed, his heart racing. A shadowy figure stood in the doorway. It was Nixara. "You need to listen," she whispered. "They didn't tell you the truth." James took a step back. What truth? Nixara's glowing eyes locked onto his. "This marriage, it's not about peace. It's a test." James felt his blood turn cold. A test for what? Nixara hesitated. Then she leaned in and whispered the words that would change his life forever. Survival. The alien brides and the deadly secret. James Carter stared at Nixara, the mysterious alien woman standing in his doorway. Her violet eyes glowed softly in the dim light, her dark purple skin blending with the shadows. She was stunning. But right now, James didn't care about her beauty. Her words echoed in his mind. This marriage, it's not about peace. It's a test. James took a cautious step back. A test for what? Nixara's gaze flicked toward the security cameras in the ceiling corners. She moved swiftly, her fingers tracing a strange symbol in the air. A shimmering wave pulsed from her fingertips, and suddenly, the lights flickered, the cameras going dark. "Now they can't hear us," she whispered. James's throat went dry. "Who's they?" Nixara didn't answer immediately. She moved closer, her movements like a predator. Silent, fluid, controlled. "You need to make your choices carefully, Earthling. The women you choose will decide whether you live or die." James's heart pounded. Why does everyone keep talking like this is some kind of death game? Nixara's expression darkened. Because it is. The morning selection and the Golden Warrior. The next morning, James was led to a grand selection hall, where hundreds of alien women stood in line, each one more exotic than the last. Some had wings, others had glowing tattoos, and a few had mechanical limbs enhanced with alien technology. The hall buzzed with excitement and tension. Other humans walked around, choosing their brides carefully, whispering among themselves. James barely heard them. His mind was still racing from what Nixara had told him. And then he saw her. She stood apart from the others, her golden skin radiating a soft glow, her tall frame wrapped in shimmering battle armor. Her piercing blue eyes locked onto his the moment he entered. Serena, a Seraphin warrior. She walked toward him with slow, deliberate steps, her every move controlled and precise. "I expected someone stronger," she said, tilting her head slightly. James frowned. "Excuse me." Serena crossed her arms. "You were selected for a reason, human. The United Systems do not choose weaklings for this program." James exhaled, frustrated. "Can someone please tell me what's really going on? Because I'm getting tired of these cryptic messages." Serena studied him for a moment, then said, "Marry me, and I'll tell you the truth." James blinked. "Just like that?" Serena smirked. "Unless you'd rather be paired with someone less experienced." James hesitated. He could tell she was testing him. But after everything Nixara had said last night, he knew one thing. He needed an ally who could fight. "Fine," he said. "I choose you." A soft chime rang out in the air as his selection was confirmed in the system. The moment he chose Serena, a shiver ran down his spine, like something deep inside him had just shifted. And then a familiar voice whispered behind him, "Good choice." James turned and saw Nixara, watching him with a sly smile. A deadly wedding and an oath of fire. An hour later, James stood in an ornate ceremonial hall, dressed in traditional alien wedding robes, deep blue with silver embroidery. Around him, other Earthlings were taking their oaths, their chosen alien brides standing beside them. Serena and Nixara flanked him, one on each side. James glanced at them, still not sure what he had just gotten himself into. A High Chancellor, a tall, silver-skinned alien with piercing black eyes, stood before them. His deep voice echoed through the chamber. "By the laws of the United Systems, you are now bound in union. Your lives, your destinies, are now intertwined. From this moment forth, you stand as one." A golden light surrounded them, and James felt a strange warmth spread through his body, as if something unseen had just connected him to Serena and Nixara. Then, the Chancellor's voice dropped to a low, almost sinister tone. "And so begins the trial of survival." James's blood turned cold. The what? The golden glow suddenly intensified, becoming blinding. A force pulled at his body, his mind spinning, his breath catching in his throat. The world vanished. Thrown into the arena, James hit the ground hard, dust rising around him. He coughed, pushing himself up, his vision still blurry. The warm ceremonial hall was gone. Now, he was in a massive arena, surrounded by towering walls of black stone, glowing alien symbols carved into them. Above, a sky darker than space stretched endlessly. A thunderous roar erupted from the crowd of aliens seated high above the arena. James's pulse spiked. He turned, searching for Serena and Nixara, and found them standing nearby, their expressions grim. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. Serena's eyes glowed fiercely as she pulled out two sleek daggers. "This is what I meant when I said you needed to choose wisely," she said, her voice steady. Nixara smirked, rolling her shoulders. "Welcome to the real test, Earthling." James's breath came in shallow gasps. He had been forced into a marriage he didn't understand. Now he was being thrown into a deadly trial he hadn't agreed to. Then, a loud mechanical voice boomed across the arena. "The first round begins. Combatants, survive." A massive gate creaked open at the far end of the arena. And then James saw them. Creatures. Hulking, monstrous things with razor-sharp claws, multiple glowing eyes, and armor like scales. They charged forward, the ground shaking beneath their heavy footsteps. James's throat tightened. He had no weapons, no training, no idea how to fight. And the monsters were coming straight for him. The tournament of death. James Carter stood frozen as the massive creatures charged toward him. Their razor-sharp claws gleamed under the eerie, artificial lights of the alien arena. Their multiple glowing eyes locked onto him like a predator fixating on its prey. His pulse thundered in his ears. No weapons, no armor, no training. He was just a regular guy from Earth, thrown into a death match with monsters. "Movie." A sharp voice snapped him out of his trance. Serena, his golden-skinned warrior bride, lunged forward like a lightning bolt. Her twin daggers flashed in the air as she sliced through the first beast's leg, making it roar in pain. Nixara, his shadow assassin bride, moved like a blur, flipping over another creature's back and driving a thin energy blade into the base of its skull. The creature collapsed instantly. James stumbled backward, his brain struggling to process what was happening. This wasn't a trial of love. This was a blood sport. The rules of the tournament. High above the arena, a massive hologram flickered to life, displaying a tall alien figure in dark ceremonial robes. His piercing black eyes scanned the fighters below. "This," he announced, his voice booming across the battlefield, "is the tournament of survival." Gasps and whispers rippled through the humans trapped in the arena. James clenched his fists. A tournament. "The United Systems Alliance believes in strength," the alien continued. "Only those who can survive will be considered worthy. Your marriages are not just for diplomacy. They are for battle. Each human has been paired with warriors from elite alien races. If you survive, you will gain unlimited power and privilege in our empire." The creatures surrounding James snarled, baring rows of jagged teeth. The alien's voice grew cold. "If you fail, you die." A loud metallic horn blared, signaling the start of the first round. James's stomach twisted. He was not a fighter. He was a guy who barely survived office meetings. How was he supposed to survive a death tournament? The first kill and awakening the instincts. James felt something rush toward him. He barely had time to react before a massive claw swiped at his head. Whoosh! He ducked just in time, feeling the air whistle past his ear. The creature loomed over him, snarling, ready to attack again. James knew he had to move. But how? No weapons, no armor, no plan. Jamie's use this. Nixora flipped through the air and tossed him a small silver disc. James caught it instinctively. But what the hell is this? He had no idea how to use alien weapons. The creature lunged again. James had no time to think. Something inside him snapped. His hand moved on its own, pressing the center of the disc. CLITK. The disc shifted, unfolding into a long energy staff that hummed with power. James's eyes widened. The monster swiped at him again. This time, he swung the staff in defense. Crack! The force sent a shockwave through his arms, but the monster staggered backward, screeching. James couldn't believe it. Did he just hurt that thing? Nixora grinned. Not bad, Earthling. But don't just defend. Kill. Serena shouted. James, aim for the neck or heart. Their armor is too thick everywhere else. James gulped. He had never killed anything before. Could he really do this? The creature snarled and charged at him again, rage burning in its glowing eyes. James's survival instincts kicked in. His muscles moved before his brain could think. He spun the energy staff, dodging the creature's attack then. With all his strength, he slammed the weapon straight into its throat. A loud, sickening crack. The creature collapsed, twitching violently. Then, silence. It was dead. James stood there, chest heaving, eyes wide. He had just killed a living thing. A shiver ran down his spine. This was only the first round, the hidden purpose of the tournament. As the last monster fell, the surviving humans and their alien partners gathered in the center of the arena. The massive hologram of the alien overlord flickered again. "You have survived the first round," he said. But this was just a warm-up. James wiped sweat from his forehead. Warm-up? Are you kidding me? Nixora smirked. "Oh, you haven't seen anything yet." Serena folded her arms. "The real challenge is yet to come." James turned to them. "You two seem to know a lot about this tournament. How long have you known this was happening?" Nixora sighed. "This tournament has existed for centuries. The United Systems always do this when a new race joins the Empire. They don't just welcome us. They test us." Serena nodded. "Humans were chosen because you are unpredictable. Unlike most species, your kind adapts quickly. The rulers of the United Systems want to see if humans can become stronger than expected." James felt his stomach drop. This wasn't about peace. This was a gladiator trial. He clenched his fists. "So if we survive, what happens next?" Nixora gave him a mischievous look. "If we survive, you won't just be a normal human anymore, James." Serena's eyes glowed fiercely. "You'll be something far more dangerous." James felt a strange energy stir inside him. For the first time since this nightmare began, a new feeling rose in his chest. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was determination. The next round, and the rising power. The alien overlord's voice boomed again. "The second round will begin soon. Prepare yourselves." Large gates opened on the far end of the arena. Inside was a dark labyrinth, filled with unknown dangers. James tightened his grip on the energy staff. He wasn't the same helpless Earthling he had been before. And if the United Systems wanted to test him, then he was damn well going to pass. No matter what it took. The betrayal and the hidden power. James Carter gripped his energy staff tightly as he stepped toward the massive labyrinth. The dark corridors stretched endlessly ahead, flickering with eerie blue lights. From somewhere inside, the sound of inhuman growls echoed. Serena and Nixara stood beside him, their expressions grim. "This isn't just a maze," Serena muttered. "It's a hunting ground." Nixara's violet eyes flickered in the dim light. "The real game begins now, Earthling. Are you ready?" James exhaled sharply. "Not even a little." Nixara smirked. "Good. That means you're smart." A loud horn blared, signaling the start of the second round. And then, the gates slammed shut behind them. James's stomach clenched. No turning back now. The rules of the maze. A massive holographic screen flickered in the sky above the labyrinth. The cold voice of the alien overlord rang out. Second round. The labyrinth of extinction. Rules are simple. Find the exit. Survive. A collective murmur ran through the remaining competitors. Then the voice grew colder. "However, there is a twist." The crowd fell silent. "Not all of you can escape." James felt his pulse spike. What does he mean? Before he could finish his sentence, the walls of the labyrinth shifted with a loud mechanical groan. Pathways opened and closed in random patterns, separating groups of humans and their alien partners. Serena cursed. "They're splitting us up." Nixara grabbed James's arm. "Run." Before he could react, the ground beneath him shook violently, and a massive steel wall shot up between them. James barely had time to react as he was cut off from Serena and Nixara. He whirled around. She was gone too. He was alone. And then he heard the growling. The hunters in the shadows. James spun around just in time to see a dark shape darting toward him. His instincts kicked in. He barely dodged to the side as a hulking, quadrupedal beast lunged at him, its elongated jaw snapping inches from his face. The thing was unlike anything he had ever seen. Black exoskeleton, long limbs, ending in razor-sharp claws, multiple red eyes glowing in the darkness. And it wasn't alone. 4 more emerged from the shadows, their low snarls filling the air. James tightened his grip on his energy staff. Oh, great, a horror movie. And I'm the main character. The creatures circled him, moving with terrifying speed and intelligence. He had 2 choices: stand and fight, run like hell. His body screamed at him to run, but something deep inside him refused to move. His survival instincts told him something was wrong. And then he saw it. One of the creatures wasn't attacking. It was watching, studying him. James's mind raced. They were testing him. Not just hunting him, but evaluating. Testing if he was worthy. Screw that. James lunged forward, swinging the energy staff with all his strength. Crack. The first creature took a direct hit to the jaw, its exoskeleton shattering like glass. The others hissed in surprise, and then they attacked at once. The first betrayal. James fought harder than he ever had in his life. His body moved on instinct, dodging and striking in perfect rhythm. For a moment, he thought he could win. Then, he felt a sharp pain explode in his side. James stumbled backward, gasping. He looked down. His side was bleeding, but not from the creatures. From a blade. A human blade. A cold voice whispered in his ear. "Sorry, Carter. Nothing personal." James's blood turned to ice. He turned just in time to see a familiar face stepping out of the shadows. Kyle Radner, one of the other humans, a man James had barely spoken to during the selection process. Kyle smirked, wiping his knife clean. "Only a limited number of us can escape, remember? That means I need to get rid of the competition." James staggered, his mind racing. A human just tried to kill him. And then, Kyle turned and ran, disappearing into the labyrinth. James clutched his bleeding side, his vision blurring. The creatures surrounding him paused, as if sensing his weakness. James gritted his teeth. He wasn't dying here. Not to some alien beasts. Not to Kyle. He refused. And then, it happened. Something deep inside him awakened. The hidden power. The moment James let go of fear, something inside him shifted. His vision changed, sharpening. His skin tingled with raw energy. His mind slowed time. He could see the movements of the creatures before they even made them. A single powerful thought entered his mind. Kill them all. He moved, faster than ever before. His energy staff crackled to life, glowing brighter than before. He didn't just fight. He dominated. One by one, the creatures fell. One strike. 2, 3. Each movement felt natural, as if his body had been waiting for this moment, waiting to unlock its true potential. And then, the last creature collapsed. James stood there, breathing heavily, his hands shaking. His mind raced. What just happened to me? The truth revealed. A slow clap echoed through the air. James whirled around, his weapon raised, and saw Nyxara stepping out of the shadows, her arms crossed. She smirked. Well, Earthling. Looks like you finally woke up. James stared at her, still dazed. What the hell was that? Nyxara's eyes glowed. That, my dear husband, was your true power. Serena's voice came from behind him. Humans weren't chosen randomly for this tournament, James. James turned, startled to see Serena stepping forward, unharmed. She met his gaze. The United Systems believe humans have a hidden evolutionary trigger, a power that only appears under extreme survival conditions. Nyxara grinned. And guess what, darling? You just proved them right. James's heartbeat thundered in his chest. He had power. Real power. But if the United Systems knew this, what else were they planning for him? And worse, what if he wasn't the only human unlocking this power? What if someone like Kyle had it too? James gritted his teeth. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about who would become the strongest, and James had no intention of losing. The final battle and the ultimate choice. James Carter stood in the center of the labyrinth, his energy staff humming in his grip. His breathing was heavy, his wounds aching, but he felt something new coursing through his veins. Power. Real power. Something inside him had awakened, a force he never knew he had. And now he was starting to understand why he had been chosen. But this was far from over. Serena, his golden-skinned warrior wife, stood beside him, her piercing blue eyes locked onto his. Your instincts are sharpening, James. You're becoming what they wanted. Nyxara smirked. The United Systems thought they were testing you, but now you're going to break their test. James clenched his fists. He wasn't just playing along anymore. Now he wanted to win. The truth behind the tournament. A deep rumble echoed through the labyrinth as the walls around them shifted again. Ahead, the pathway opened into a vast circular battlefield, illuminated by glowing alien runes. James, Serena, and Nyxara stepped forward cautiously. The moment they entered, a holographic projection flickered to life above them. It was the High Chancellor, the ruler of the United Systems Alliance. His voice rang through the air, calm yet commanding. Congratulations, survivors. You have reached the final stage. James tightened his grip on his weapon. Final stage. The Chancellor continued. From the beginning, this tournament was never about marriage or diplomacy. It was a test, a way to find the strongest among you. James's pulse quickened. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. Because only the strongest will earn the right to lead humanity. James's stomach dropped. Wait. What? The Chancellor's voice deepened. We have chosen Earth as our next battleground. Your species is unpredictable, powerful. You adapt quickly. And in time, you will be a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. He smirked. But only if your leader is strong enough. A heavy silence fell over the arena. And then, A massive gate opened across the battlefield. A familiar figure stepped out. Kyle. His smirk was gone. His eyes burned with newfound power. His body was covered in alien armor, his hands crackling with dark energy. James's stomach twisted. Kyle had changed, just like him. The Chancellor's voice rang out one last time. 2 humans remain. Only one can rule. James's blood turned cold. This wasn't just a fight. This was a battle for humanity's future. The duel for Earth. Kyle stepped forward, rolling his shoulders. You should have died back in the labyrinth, Carter. James exhaled, shifting into a battle stance. Yeah, well, I have trust issues. Kyle smirked. Guess what? So do I. And then, he attacked. James barely dodged as Kyle launched a blast of pure dark energy, the force sending shockwaves through the arena. The crowd above roared as the battle began. Kyle moved fast, faster than any human should. His strikes were precise, his energy crackling with every movement. James barely had time to block the next attack. Kyle's fist connected with his ribs, sending him flying across the battlefield. Pain shot through his body, but James forced himself to stand. Serena and Nyxara watched from the sidelines, forbidden from interfering. James wiped blood from his lip. You're stronger than before. Kyle grinned, dark energy swirling around him. Yeah, and I like it. James narrowed his eyes. They'd been testing us for something bigger. Kyle tilted his head. Who cares? James stiffened. You really don't get it, do you? The United Systems don't want a leader for humanity. They want a weapon. Kyle laughed. Then I'll be their weapon. James gritted his teeth. He had seen power corrupt before, and Kyle had fallen for it. Completely. The last stand. Kyle lunged again, this time aiming to kill. His dark energy lashed out, forming blades of pure destruction. James dodged, barely. Kyle was relentless. Faster, stronger, ruthless. But James had something Kyle didn't. His instincts, his adaptability, his will to survive. James closed his eyes for a split second, listening, feeling. And then, he moved, faster than ever. He dodged the next attack, sliding behind Kyle with impossible speed. Kyle's eyes widened. What? James didn't hesitate. He channeled everything he had into his energy staff. A burst of pure light exploded from his weapon, hitting Kyle dead center in the chest. Kyle screamed, his energy shattering apart. And then, he collapsed. Silence. James stood over him, panting. Kyle wasn't dead, but he was beaten. And the arena knew it. A deafening roar erupted from the crowd. The ultimate choice. The Chancellor's hologram flickered again. He looked pleased. You have won, James Carter. James exhaled, exhaustion hitting him all at once. The Chancellor's voice darkened. And now, you must decide. Will you lead your people into the stars, or will you reject power and return to Earth as a nobody? The choice hung in the air. James looked at Kyle, unconscious and defeated. He looked at Serena and Nyxara, their eyes filled with expectation. He looked at the millions of aliens watching, waiting for his decision. And in that moment, he realized the truth. This wasn't just about him. It was about humanity's future, the final decision. James stepped forward, looking directly into the Chancellor's holographic eyes. I'll lead, he said, his voice steady. The Chancellor smirked. Then, James Carter of Earth, your new life begins now. A bright golden light engulfed him, filling his body with unimaginable power. The crowd cheered. Serena and Nyxara smiled. Kyle lay motionless, defeated. And James Carter was no longer just a human. He was something more. The first galactic king of Earth. And the war for the universe was just beginning. Earth's true purpose in the universe. James Carter stood at the center of the grand arena. the golden glow of his newfound power still flickering across his body. The cheers of the alien crowd echoed in his ears, but his mind was racing. He had won. He had defeated Kyle. He had been chosen as the leader of humanity. But deep inside, he knew something was wrong. This wasn't just about Earth's place in the galaxy. It was about control. The United Systems Alliance didn't just want a leader for Earth. They wanted a weapon. And now that weapon was him. The truth behind the United Systems. A High Chancellor descended from his floating podium, his long ceremonial robes flowing behind him. His silver skin gleamed under the alien lights, his black eyes filled with unreadable satisfaction. "You have done well, James Carter," the Chancellor said, his deep voice resonating across the arena. "You have proven yourself." James exhaled, his hands still tingling from the final battle. "I proved that I can survive," he corrected, his voice edged with suspicion. "But I still don't know why you forced us to fight." The Chancellor smiled, a cold, calculated smile. "Because, James Carter, humanity was never meant to remain on Earth." James frowned. "What do you mean?" The Chancellor turned to the millions of aliens watching from the Colosseum seats. "For millennia, we have guided young civilizations, helping them grow, evolve, and find their place in the stars." James's gut twisted. Guided or controlled? The Chancellor's expression didn't change. Every race must prove its worth before joining the greater galactic empire. Your people, however, are different, more unpredictable, more dangerous. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The truth is, James Carter, humans were never meant to be mere citizens of the United Systems." He paused. "They were meant to be its warriors. The secret history of humanity." James froze. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. "Warriors," he repeated. The Chancellor nodded. "Long ago, before Earth's recorded history, humanity was part of an ancient alliance known as the Prime Order." James felt his pulse spike. "That's impossible." "No, James Carter. Your kind has merely forgotten its true origins." The Chancellor gestured toward the holographic screens above them. Images flickered to life. Ancient wars, massive starships, soldiers in sleek battle armor wielding weapons of pure energy. At the heart of the battle was a race identical to humans. James's breath caught in his throat. That's us," he whispered. The Chancellor nodded. "Before Earth fell into its primitive age, your ancestors were among the most feared warriors in the cosmos. But they rebelled against the Prime Order, refusing to serve as weapons. So they were erased from history and sent back to their homeworld, with their knowledge wiped." James's mind reeled. Earth was never meant to be alone. Humans weren't just randomly evolving. They had always been built for war. And now, the United Systems wanted them back. As their soldiers. The choice, freedom or control. James clenched his fists, his mind racing. "So that's why you forced this tournament?" he asked. "To see if we were still strong enough." The Chancellor smiled. "Precisely. And now you will lead them. The humans will join the galactic legions, serving as the enforcers of order across the stars." James felt his stomach turn. "You mean as your weapons," he said coldly. The Chancellor's smile didn't fade. "Call it what you wish, James Carter. But you will accept, because if you refuse, Earth will be left defenseless." Silence. James's fingers tightened around his staff. This wasn't an offer. It was a threat. He looked at the screens again, watching the ancient humans fight. They had once had a choice. They had rejected being pawns in a galactic war. And now, history was repeating itself. James wouldn't let that happen. The rebellion begins. James took a step forward, his eyes burning with new resolve. "No." The Chancellor blinked. "Excuse me." James's voice was firm. "I said no. Humanity won't be your soldiers. We'll make our own path." Murmurs spread through the arena. The alien spectators whispered among themselves. some surprised, others impressed. The Chancellor's expression darkened. "That is not an option, James Carter." James smirked. "Then you should have picked someone easier to control." The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "You realize what this means." James lifted his energy staff, feeling the power inside him surging again. "Yeah," he said. "It means we fight." Serena stepped forward, golden light flickering around her hands. "I stand with my husband." Nyxara grinned, drawing her twin daggers. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." The crowd erupted in chaos. The Chancellor raised his hand, and the air trembled. From the shadows, dozens of armored alien soldiers emerged, their weapons charged. James exhaled. He had spent his whole life running from responsibility. But now, he had found something worth fighting for. Earth. Humanity. Freedom. He turned to Serena and Nyxara, his heart pounding. "You two ready for war?" Serena smirked. "We were born ready." Nyxara laughed. "Let's make this fun." James grinned. Then he raised his staff and charged straight into battle. The last twist and a new beginning. James Carter stood at the center of the grand arena, his energy staff crackling with raw power. The weight of a galactic empire's expectations pressed down on him, but he refused to kneel. The United Systems Alliance had expected him to bow, to lead humanity as their perfect soldier. Instead, he had declared war. And now, the battlefield was set. Surrounded by heavily armed alien soldiers, with millions of spectators watching from above, James knew one thing. The fight for humanity's future had begun. The first strike. The High Chancellor raised a hand, his black eyes burning with anger. "James Carter of Earth, you have sealed your fate." With a flick of his wrist, the alien soldiers charged. Serena was the first to move. Her golden energy flared, and in an instant, she launched forward, cutting down the first wave of enemies with her twin blades. Nyxara vanished into the shadows, reappearing behind an officer and slicing through his armor before he could react. James felt the power inside him surge. He twirled his energy staff and slammed it into the ground. Boom! A shockwave erupted outward, sending soldiers flying, cracking the arena floor. The audience gasped in awe. James could feel it now. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for Earth. For every human who had no idea they had been part of an ancient war. For freedom. And he would not lose. The turning point. The battle raged on, the arena filled with clashing weapons, explosions, and the screams of fallen warriors. James fought with a grace and power that was not human. Every strike, every move, felt like something buried deep inside him had finally awakened. "He's learning too fast," an alien officer shouted. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "Of course he is," the Chancellor murmured. "He is one of them." James didn't hear the words, but he felt their meaning. Something was still being hidden from him. Something bigger. But right now, he had to end this. He locked eyes with the High Chancellor, then sprinted forward, charging straight for the leader of the United Systems. The final confrontation was here. The High Chancellor's true power. As James leaped toward him, the High Chancellor simply raised a single hand. And then, everything froze. The air became heavy, the world turning into a blur of colors and light. James felt his body locked in place, his energy drained in an instant. "What?" he gasped, struggling to move. Serena and Nyxara collapsed to their knees, their faces filled with pain. The Chancellor's silver skin began to glow, his true power revealing itself. "You are powerful, James Carter," he said, his voice no longer cold, but ancient. "But you are still young. You are still incomplete." James gritted his teeth. "What are you?" The Chancellor finally smiled. "I am what you were meant to become." James froze. The Chancellor lifted his hand, and the air itself rippled like liquid. "You were never chosen to be a leader, James. You were chosen to be reborn. A massive energy wave burst from the Chancellor, engulfing James entirely. Pain. It was unlike anything he had ever felt before. His mind fractured, his body burned, his memories flooded with something impossible. Then, James saw visions, the final revelation, flashes of light, ancient wars, a civilization long forgotten. James saw humans, but not as he knew them. They were gods of war, moving faster than light, their bodies glowing with the same golden energy he now possessed. And at their head, a king, a warrior unlike any other, leading them into battle. James's breath caught in his throat. The king turned, and James saw his own face. This wasn't his first life. This was his return. The Chancellor's voice whispered into his mind. You are not the first James Carter. You are the last descendant of the primordial human kings. James's world shattered. The choice that would define humanity. When James's vision cleared, he was kneeling before the Chancellor, his body trembling from the weight of the truth. You understand now, the Chancellor said. You were not chosen randomly. Your bloodline is the key. Humanity was always destined to return to power. James's hands clenched into fists. And you expect me to serve you? The Chancellor's silver eyes gleamed. No, James, I expect you to ascend. The energy around them pulsed again. You can take your place at my side. You can reclaim what was once yours. You can lead the armies of Earth, not as soldiers, but as gods. James's heart pounded. It was tempting. Unimaginably tempting. But then, he looked at Serena and Nyxara, at the bloodshed around him, at the millions of aliens watching in silence, and he realized something. The moment he accepted, he wouldn't just be reclaiming power. He would be enslaving humanity all over again. James slowly rose to his feet, and then, with clear defiance in his eyes, he spoke. No. The Chancellor stiffened. James exhaled. You say I was meant to rule, but I say we were meant to be free. Humanity isn't here to be kings or weapons. He lifted his staff, feeling the power of his ancestors pulsing through him. We're here to be something more. The Chancellor's face darkened. Then you have chosen war. James smirked. No, I've chosen revolution. And with those words, he attacked. The birth of the human empire. The final battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. James Carter, the last king of the primordial humans, faced the full might of the United Systems Alliance. But he was not alone. Serena led the warriors of Seraphon into battle. Nyxara commanded the Nithari assassins to strike in the shadows. And the humans, those who had survived the tournament, rallied behind him. For the first time in history, humanity was no longer just another race. They were a force to be reckoned with. And when the dust settled, when the war was over, the United Systems had fallen. And in its place, a new empire rose. An empire that would reshape the galaxy forever. The Empire of Earth. And at its head, James Carter, the first sovereign. The beginning of a new legend. As James stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the endless stars ahead, Serena stepped beside him. What now? She asked. James smiled. Now. He turned to her, eyes burning with determination. We show the galaxy what it truly means to be human. And with that, they set course for the next chapter of history, because this wasn't the end of the story. This was just the beginning.